Well, it is another Penguins live chat here on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski, and we're doing this in the evening, just the way the schedule sort of fell with a noon practice on Wednesday. Shelley did Monday, so I had to do Wednesday. And here we are. We're doing an evening chat, and it looks like we've got some people lined up, which is always a good deal. Let me double check the sound and make sure. Yep, I am here. As always, as things go wrong, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and let's keep this YouTube thing going. So, obviously, Tuesday night was a little bit of a fulcrum for me, in so much as the Pittsburgh Penguins turned a muddy, ugly, crappy, garbage 1-1 game with the Vancouver Canucks into a 5-1 win. Now, make no mistake, the Penguins weren't very good Thursday. That might not have even been their B game, but the Canucks were also sort of out of gas on their Eastern road trip, and that's what you have to do. You have to find a way, you have to overcome, you have to fight and figure out ways to win. Penguins did that. So here's what we're going to talk about on this here live chat. Of course, your comments as we do this live, but we're going to talk about my column on Wednesday afternoon. What will define a successful Penguins season? The funny thing is, Jeff Hathorn asked me that on 93.7 The Fan. I guess it would have been like last Thursday or Friday, because I was in Los Angeles from my room doing the show. And he asked that question. A couple of readers and viewers that asked the very same question. So we're going to get into that, I think, in some detail. We're also going to maybe rehash a little bit. I didn't do a report card on Tuesday night because, well, quite frankly, had I done a report card, it would have been brutal. There weren't a lot of great performances. It wasn't a well-structured game. It was just, every pass was in the shin pads. Every idea was sort of, almost. Just like I said, a muddy, messy sort of hockey game. I would not have delivered a lot of good grades. But as I sat down to write the report card in the Penguins media room there, it dawned on me who scored the goals. And this is sort of the foundation that I'm going to use to talk about what will be a successful Penguin season. So let's lay the bricks first, right? The Penguins got goals from Connor Dewar, Anthony Mantha. Who am I missing? Oh, Justin Brazeau, who, by the way, told me today he's almost 6'7", not the 6'5" he's listed. So I was kind of teasing him a little bit, like, geez, you're not one of those guys who are 5'10", claiming to be 6'3". I mean, dude's a horse. He's a big guy. And he has 5 goals in 7 games. I mean, at this point, he's almost fulfilled his $1.5 million contract. If he got to, let's say, 7 goals and 10 points, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was worth $1.5 million. He might do that before the end of October, the way his season and the way he's playing with Evgeny Malkin. The larger point of him scoring and Mantha scoring and Dewar scoring and the way that Ben Kindle is playing, the maturation, it still has a ways to go, of Harrison Brunick, Caleb Jones, and Parker Wotherspoon. All of these guys sort of create this entirely new identity within the Penguins. I had asked Brazeau last night, there's a lot of you new guys, and I suppose I should thank Chris Letang for sort of planting the seed when he said that, there's a lot of new guys on, he didn't say show me contracts, but he's, contracts, they have to show what they can do, and they're hungry and they play hungry every night. And Letang continued about the new vibe with the new voice of the coach and guys coming to the rink, trying to learn the system and really dialing in, wanting to be on their game. And it creates this whole new vibe, Letang called it. Okay, that's I probably should share the screen in a moment or two. Make sure that there is no sound coming through before I share the screen. So to me, all of that overshadowed Crosby breaking Mario's record for most points combined regular season and playoffs. Even overshadowed Letang getting his 600th assist. Although, if you saw the Pittsburgh Hockey Now story, I got the video. I kind of came in late to the scrum, so as people were leaving, I guess he hadn't been asked the question in quite the way I asked it. How personally satisfying was it? And quick tangent here to pump PHN is Letang was like, I never expected to be a hockey player. And, to get to this point, it's all surreal. And I suppose I've played 20 years. So, 600 assists is kind of something that will happen. But it's just amazing that I've gotten this far. Thought that was a pretty honest answer. Whereas Sid couldn't enjoy it. Honest to goodness, Sidney Crosby could not enjoy he couldn't enjoy the records. Like, yeah, but Mario, I played like 500 more games than Mario. It's like, come on, man. Just revel in it just a little bit, would you? That's just not Sid. He's broken enough records, I suppose, at this point where he knows the difference. Anyway, but in talking with Brazeau, he also mentioned that how much fun it is that there's a lot of guys with sort of a commonality, something to play for, and they've got a lot to prove. I'm trying to find the story here. Yep, there we go. Let's see here. Where's the quote? There it is. So I am going to share the screen for you. Okay, sorry. We're doing this on the fly, like I always do. Here, it's just different. And this is what Brazeau said. I think there is a lot of guys trying to prove what they are in this league and trying to find their way. I like that last part, find their way. I think there's a lot of people in here that know that they can be more than what they have been labeled to start. So I think anytime you have that, we have a good mixture with obviously the three guys in here that have done so much in their career, the guys who are just starting. So I think it's kind of a cool mixture. And you can go to Pittsburgh Hockey Now and sort of check all of that out. What's happening is there is an energy in the Penguins room that has been so sorely lacking for the last few years. I think back to when the Penguins missed the playoffs in 22-23. At one point down the stretch, they were a 90% shot to make the playoffs, and they just were so dead-legged. They were so bereft of spirit and enthusiasm that they collapsed, ultimately putting themselves in what was essentially a win or no playoff situation against the so lowly Chicago Blackhawks. And that game has had such reverberations. The Blackhawks getting Bedard and so on and so forth, launching the Florida Panthers dynasty. If the Penguins don't suck that night, none of that happens. Isn't that amazing? I think back to that team, and I wrote this at the time, so it's not like please don't think I'm driving in hindsight here, driving in the rearview mirror, but it wasn't that they were old, it's that they were old in spirit. Now you got guys milling about the locker room wanting to talk to other people. You have guys milling about the locker room, joking and goofing around, just having a little bit of a good time. I talked with Ben Kindle today about the difference between the WHL road trip and the NHL road trip. He's like, yeah, they talk about the grind, the NHL grind. Like this, it's kind of luxury. If he didn't make the NHL roster, he would be on a bus, sometimes for as much as 14 hours. Basically, they drive all night. They show up midday. Maybe they check into a hotel. It's probably literally, I can speak from experience here, at that level or the ECHL or such. Sometimes you're staying at the Motel 8 or Motel 6 or the Days Inn. Not exactly luxury. There's certainly no giant breakfast waiting for you in the morning. Guys go to the rink and try to get some of the food. And this is life. Trust me, it's not easy on you. Now, there's a road trip in Florida, which would ordinarily be just a brutal one. They fly out today, charter plane. They're going to stay 5-star hotel. Actually, they're in Florida. So they might have to stay in that 2.5, 3-star hotel. There's only a couple of hotels, and one is a trash bag now. I used to stay there and no longer. I digress. So he was kind of joking, yeah, it's not bad. That it creates this entire freshness for the team, and I have no idea where it goes from here. They could lose the next 10 games and look terrible doing it. They could win 7 of the next 10 and really have a firm grip on a playoff spot approaching Thanksgiving. Didn't see that coming, did we? I mean, some of us mentioned that they were too good to suck, but didn't see the potential that they have. The good start has put them in such a position. The good start has put them in such a position that now they can slip a little bit. They can go through a little bit of an up and a down without being completely out of it. Sorry about that. I hate that the MacBook, if you happen to glide your hand or your finger over the mouse pad, sometimes it takes you back. So I literally just paged out of the studio. And I was actually trying to get over here to the comments and get rolling. So Invictus Numi, I don't know what that. Your first live chat. I appreciate you. I appreciate you hopping on board. Invictu Sanimi says, I'm ashamed that I was skeptical of Dan Muse in the beginning. Same with Kyle Dubas. I'm 100% on board with where we are going. Josh Shaw says the Penguins might be good this year. The defense looks way better than last season. Yeah. There are two key differences. The third pairing is a bit of an adventure. Caleb Jones and Harrison Brunick are a bit of an adventure. It is. I think the Penguins are letting both of those guys find their sea legs, find them together. The two key differences. One, Parker Wotherspoon. The difference between him and Matt Grzelcyk is significant. The system helps a great deal. Dan Muse's system really prioritizes defensemen, puts them in spots to succeed, puts a lot of spotlight on them. That 1-1-3 with the defense activating both in the forecheck and in the rush, and it really does. It allows the defenseman to take a primary role. But Wotherspoon's good in the defensive zone too. He's a little bit physical. He can skate. He pinches in. He knows what he's doing. He and Ryan Shea, really, here are two guys who toiled in the AHL much longer than they should have. Guys are both 28 years old, really getting their first taste of everyday NHL action. I suppose maybe Ryan Shea would be the third big difference. The other is Erik Karlsson playing some really good hockey. Look, Karlsson's going to have his Karlsson moments. Can't get around that. Just can't. Won't ever go away. He's 35. It is long ago baked into the casserole. But his elevation makes that blue line so much better. In fact, so much better that really I thought until Tuesday night, Chris Letang has been not good this season. In fact, I wrote that he really struggled out west. Really struggled. Especially the track meet against San Jose. He turned it around at home against Vancouver. But because the other players are playing so much better, plus Muse's system does provide some layers and protection for the defenseman, that you can get away with a guy really scuffling. Let's see here. Let's go to Brian, 2015. Actually, I guess it's 20,015. How long before Clifton or Dumba become unhappy, rotten in the press box? Well, Dumba, I don't think is a happy camper. Clifton is a really jolly sort of guy. If he is unhappy, Clifton is the type of personality who will just keep it loose. He'll be able to disconnect his own emotions from the team. Now, Dumba, on the other hand, I do think that moment comes much sooner than later. He wants to play. So, and actually, he needs to play. This was a big bounce back year, rebound year, show me sort of year for him. And I can tell, just having talked to him I actually haven't talked to him in the regular season because, it's just the availability. You're not supposed to go talk to the guys who are healthy scratches. And except for one day, he's been a scratch. So I suspect that's the one, and I feel bad too, because he kind of does deserve to be in the lineup. He earned it in training camp and preseason. Checking in from Tejas. Is that Texas, you mean? Where's Tejas? Or is there like a city in California? From Joseph Lowe's, could Kindle be set up better with putting him on a line with maybe a veteran skilled player or with younger talent like McGroarty and Hollander? I think Mark Madden's been talking about it on his show, and he and I sort of debated in the media room last night. Mark wants Kindle on Crosby's wing. I said absolutely not. Let Kindle be. Let Kindle find his own way as a third-line center. Lower pressure, lower competition, but still an upside. Mark's like, no. If they make him a third-liner now, he'll start to believe he's a third-liner. I don't know. I think Kindle's a smart enough guy that with some extra offensive opportunities, some extra special teams opportunities, get him in the offensive zone more often than you would your normal third-line center. Maybe make Crosby do some heavy lifting. maybe shift your fourth line a little more. Have them pick up more of the defensive slack, which Dan Muse has done at times this season when the third line was not going. We've seen Blake Lizotte and Connor Dewar, and was that the night Nola Chari was scratched? And no, that was, Nola Chari was on the line that night when they played 14, 15 minutes. That was the night that Novak, Tomasino, and Hollander were just not getting it done, and they played like 8, 9 minutes. I think at this point, you can let Kindle be a third line center. I do, Joseph, agree with you that some skill on his line would go a long way to helping out. Now, if that's McGroarty, okay. If McGroarty takes a spot in the top 6 and they drop, Anthony Mantha or Justin Brazeau down to play with Kindle, okay. That also would I think satisfy that skill component. I do think they gave Ville Koivunen the quick hook. Koivunen and Kindle had a pretty good connection in preseason. So yes, I think you have a point that they should put some more talent around Kindle. I guess I'm tipping my hand that no, I don't think he should be the first or second line center. Not yet, anyway. Next year, yeah, he's the second line center next year. All right, let's see here. Let's go to the Driz. What are the noticeable differences between Dan Muse and Mike Sullivan's systems? Defensive awareness and layers of support are apparent. Well, awareness isn't really a system. That's just having your head on your shoulders and not where a proctologist might find it. Certainly speed and quickness and younger legs help. Yeah. Driz, I know you've been through a few of these live chats, and I'm sure I think a lot of you have seen some of the post-game videos and even some of the, the report cards in which I talk about the 1-1-3. So just visualize Dan Muse's 1-1-3. Mike Sullivan, in theory, had a 1-2-2. In theory, it was a 1-2-2. In reality, the way the Penguins played it, it was almost a 3-1-1. Definitely a 2-2-1 a lot of times. Last November and December, if I'm boiling it down to just the barest broth here, right now, the systems are much more complicated than that. And, this isn't basketball where, you stand at certain points on the court. Far more complex. But I suppose for the very first stage of the conversation here, I'm going to use, the most basics. Sullivan, last November and December, when the Penguins were just El Fuego, going crazy, winning games, getting themselves in a playoff spot, don't forget. By the end of December, the Penguins were in a playoff spot or tied for it, whatever it was. They were playing a 1-2-2 fairly rigidly. Not quite a trap, but certainly a counterattack, certainly creating a lot of layers through the neutral zone to protect their defensemen, to protect their goalies. Heaven forbid it worked. I do not know why in January they got so far away from it. But there was a point. It's the annual post-Christmas Islanders game. For whatever reason, the Penguins always play the Islanders coming out of the Christmas break. Although this year they play Chicago. So I get me some Luke's beef after Christmas. Hey, listen, with the way my life goes, the eats like Luke's Italian beef, that's as good as it gets for me. The system once again became a jailbreak forecheck which didn't protect the defenseman, didn't protect the goalies, wasn't very effective on the forecheck. And so you really began to see the crumbling defense again. By mid-January, things stunk. They were well out of the playoffs. They were sinking fast. People were miserable. I had the misfortune of being very poorly timed, wandering over to Marcus Pettersson. I want to say it was in the San Jose locker room when I got the exclusive. I remember the conversation. I think it was the San Jose room. And I was like, hey, your name's in the trade rumors, so on and so forth. How are you handling it? And he was kind of honest about it. Marcus was not a. You might think he's a quiet, reserved guy, and he was, but he wasn't a wallflower when you asked him a question. 2 days later, 36 hours later, the trade with he and Drew O'Connor went down. Oof, that was. Yeah, I mean, my story went viral, which was kind of nice for me, but it felt really awkward. Like I knew something, and I didn't. I could feel the drum beat a little bit, and so it goes. By the end of January, the Penguins were toast. By the end of February, they were just burnt toast. And then they had their usual March uptick, but it was way too late at that point. I don't know why. I never understood. And if I could have asked Mike Sullivan the question, I certainly would have. But discretion is the better part of valor. Sullivan was kind of giving me some terse answers anyway. He would not have answered the question. So, Mike, you were playing a very counterattack structured hockey in November and December, more of a one up front rather than, 2 or even sometimes 3. Why'd you get away from that? That would, that's one of those no-goes. Not happening. Let's see here. Let me get to Sonny's question here. Dubas is rotating goalies to pressure Jari mentally with constant competition. When his mental game rises to his physical, then Dubas can trade him. Jari is at 922. Thoughts? Well, first of all, I don't know that Dubas has mandated the rotation. That would be Dan Muse's call in most instances. Maybe he and Dubas came to the agreement that it both protects Sheloffs, who is far from a finished product, and challenges Jari. Then that's the best way to go. It's hard to argue with results, isn't it? Jari put up one of his better games in quite some time in that 3-0 shutout of San Jose. My San Jose colleagues, Sheng Peng included, Sheng Peng's covered a few hockey games in his life, thought that San Jose outplayed the Penguins and they got goalied. So if you say, well, Jari never steals a game, according to the San Jose folks, he stole that game on Saturday in the 3-0 shutout. My thoughts are, I generally don't like goalie rotations. I like a guy with help from a guy or backup from a guy. In this case, 2 guys, a girl, and a pizza place. It's great. Let's go to Alex Scanderall. I saw some stat about Kindle being a leader in some sort of... Come on, man. You can't give me some vague stuff like this. I saw some stat about Kindle being a leader in some sort of expected goals or expected goals for. I don't know what it was, but he was up there really helping and contributing in his young NHL career. Oh, Alex, just go to Natural Stat Trick and you can look up his, XGF and his scoring chances for. Listen, the publicly available analytics are becoming more antiquated, more worthless by the day. That's not to poo-poo all of you analytics devotees, although I suspect if you're watching my YouTube show, you're not an analytics person. When I first started doing Pittsburgh Hockey Now and even on the radio, I was kind of enamored with them. I had conversations with the folks who started War on Ice, which was, Sam Ventura is now the assistant general manager of the Buffalo Sabres. And I forget the other professor from Carnegie Mellon who helped start it, took a pretty well-paying gig with the San Fran Giants, helping build their analytics and do all of that sort of stuff. So I was kind of on the ground floor for a moment. Which game was it? Oh, yeah. It was the San Jose game in which, in the first period, the Penguins led the high danger scoring chances 10-1. I think they might have gone back and revised it 10-2. You watched the first period. You saw the breakaways and everything. San Jose had more than a couple of high danger scoring chances. So I've had too many instances like that over the last couple of years where what my eyes show me and what the stats show me are entirely different. I'm not saying analytics are bad. I'm kind of saying public analytics are very flawed. Let's go to Shane Spiker. What do you think the Pens do when Rutger McGroarty and Kevin Hayes are healthy? Yeah, getting two of them back certainly could be interesting, huh? I do think Philip Tomasino is the odd man out, or the first man out. After that, I don't know. I would suspect that, Philip Hollander has been okay. Can they slip him through waivers? Probably, but not guaranteed. You hate to lose a 25-year-old. But he's kind of a straight-laced sort of player. Not as good as the 3 fourth-liners. Not as offensively, impactful as other guys. So Tomasino is the first one to go. Then it does become a decision between Kevin Hayes and Hollander. I can't see another way around that. Oh, I take that back. The other way around that would be to keep 14 forwards and let a defenseman put a defenseman through waivers. So does Matt Dumba go through waivers? Does Connor Clifton? Those are your two alternatives. What do I think happened? I don't know where Dubas is at with this just yet. I didn't see the Ville Koivunen demotion coming whatsoever. I mean, we all knew he was, in a bad way the first couple of games. He and Sid just did not vibe, but I didn't think they'd send him down. So would they try to keep Kevin Hayes? He is an interesting player, skilled, big, not a physical guy, but he can play center or wing. He's got some good hands. Would he be good beside Ben Kindle? Would he be that sort of veteran skill beside Kindle? Though I shudder to think what a line of Novak, Kindle, and Hayes would be. That doesn't seem to work very well. I know what I'd do. I'd keep the 25-year-old and let the rest of the chips fall where they may. But I'm not sure that's where the Penguins are going to go, Shane. Sorry. It's the best answer I can give you. Let's go to Ozymandias. It would be really nice, Ozymandias. It'd be really nice if Karlsson plays well enough to make his contract movable again. Graves is a lost cause. but Jari is also reclaiming some of his value with his play over the last 6 months. I would agree with all of that. Brandon Rickner with Brady Martin being sent back to the OHL. Yeah, Martin went, what was it, 4th, 5th to Nashville? Played a couple of games, and they shipped him back to the OHL. The only players from the 2025 draft playing the NHL are Schaefer, Misa, and Kindle. Is that it? Because I thought there's a couple more. I'm not sure you're entirely right on that, Brandon. If you looked it up, my apologies, but I thought there was 1 or 2 more because I almost wrote a story on it, but I wanted to wait to see closer to the 9 games. Safe to say there are a few NHL teams kicking themselves. Yeah, I'd say so. Let's go to Kyle. Dan, going to be in Pittsburgh for the game Saturday. Don't get too many since I live in Tennessee. Excited to see them in action. Listen, they are a much better watch than they have been in quite some time. Back to Ozzy. Kindle has nothing left to learn from junior hockey. He is a top 9 forward on this team. Yeah, that's pretty easy to say. They should keep him and let him have a year with an NHL weight room strength and conditioning regime. I think that's at this point. At this point, I think that's all but assured. Let's go to back to Invictu. Yeah. Does anyone else here confuse Dan with DK? Seriously. Like, I look nothing like him. Although I guess I have a hoodie on, but I still have a collar on. See? Collar. Always got a collar on. I'm like a priest that way. Always have a collar on. No one confuses me with the other DK. Does the Driz... Boy, tons of questions here. My goodness, you guys were loaded for bear. I haven't even really gotten to the successful season part. So I'll tell you what. We're going to take a break. This is about the halfway point, I think. For those of you listening to the audio version on the Odyssey Podcast Network, thank you. We're going to take a break right now. Okay, for those of you on the video side, well, I didn't take a break, did I? So the audio will be rejoining us momentarily. So the Driz says, does general manager Kyle Dubas at some point start to put increased value on acquiring players, younger players, too many draft picks? I see 8, 9 guys either injured or in the minors ready to take advantage of any openings via trade. Perfect question, Driz, to lead me into talking about what defines a successful Penguins season. Now, this is what I wrote about 1,000 words. I don't know why I write so many words. I wish I could. Let me see if I can pull up the Dubas Crosby sort of photo that I made. This was some time ago. So I'm going to show you the homepage of Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and then sort of click on the story. See, over here, woohoo, over here, over there on the right. I think we're coming to that fork in the road of what the Penguins are going to do this season. And also, that's going to define how they define the parameters of a successful season. Well, that was a heck of a screenshot of me, wasn't it? So here's how this sort of breaks down. We'll call the first one the Kyle Dubas scenario, in which the season is defined by what Dubas does. And that means trading away some of the top-end players. Now, that doesn't necessarily define the season, but what he gets in return and the draft pick that they get. That creates the Dubas season scenario, and that's how we'll judge it, based on what he gets back and who they draft. So we won't know success until the end. That's the fork on the left. The fork on the right, this gets interesting. This also gets very dangerous. If you keep the band together, if you keep Raquel, Rust, Carlson, heck, maybe Jari. You keep all these guys together because they're winning or they're in the playoff hunt. The Penguins need to make the playoffs. At that point, that's what becomes a successful season. So it's either get good young players in return for your veterans and get a good player in the 2026, the very talent-rich 2026 draft, or make the playoffs. Those are your two options. Anything in the middle of either of those is a failure, is a mushy, middle, wimpy sort of failure. The worst thing they could do is come away with like the 14th overall draft pick and have their veterans at the end of the season. That's the worst thing that could happen for them. Because then you start looking at like a 33 turning 34-year-old Brian Rust. And then you start judging Rickard Rakell on what he has done this season. You start, you're going to lose Evgeny Malkin. Erik Karlsson will have 1 year left on his deal. And worse, everybody will know that team is incapable of making the playoffs. So you just be sort of stuck there. And you'll lose some of the guys that they've signed to these 1 year contracts. Blake Lizotte and, Nola Chari. I think Connor Dewar would also be a free agent next summer. And it becomes really difficult. Now you have to rebuild a big chunk of your roster. You have nothing to show for it. Seriously. So looking at that question, does anyone confuse me with the other DK? Come on, man. Why does Pittsburgh have two DKs? Well, because my parents named me Daniel 49 years ago. I didn't really get a say in the matter. Well, I kind of like my name. Oh, Ozzy says I don't confuse Dan. Listen, I get triggered over criticism. Sometimes I just make fun of you instead of getting angry. Joseph, so are we cool on the two Penguins paths though? Those are really the two options. You have to have success in one of those, and that means kind of going closer to the extremes. I suppose a top 10 pick would be okay, but you can't be picking 12th, 13th, 14th. And if you keep the band, you better make the playoffs. Now, if the Penguins make the playoffs, I suppose that would be the absolute and total end to the Sidney Crosby trade talk, would it not? Dubas could say, hey, look, we got you to the playoffs this year. Now we need to make some really hard decisions this summer. We need to say goodbye to all of these sorts of players. Now can you help us go through the rebuild? That might be enough. It might be, especially if the Penguins win a series or two. Actually, no, I guess if they win a series or two, then it'll be like, hey, we have to keep these guys and make a run. I'm just telling you how the players think. They don't think like you. Anyway, do I think with Flower being there for a little bit of the preseason gives the expectation of having fun of being a team? Oh, I don't know. I don't know that Marc-Andre Fleury had much of an effect on the young guys. He was there for the organization. He was there for the older guys. He was there for a few days, I suppose. But what I've seen, Joseph, in the locker room, the guys who were there having some fun are the same guys who were in Wilkes-Barre last year having some fun in the same sort of way. The one guy wanders over because he couldn't play in the AHL playoffs, due to an injury. Comes wandering over, peeking over my shoulder to see what I was shopping for in the pregame. Hey, I was looking at houses back then. He's like, oh, where are you going to live in case I have to egg your house? Just, these are the guys. They're fun. So, Fleury didn't hurt, but I don't think I would credit Fleury for these other guys having fun. Is Ryan Graves destined to get bought out? Well, that's kind of a left field question I haven't considered in a while, but yes. Now, here is how it sort of works out. If the Penguins buy him out, the 3-year penalty is peanuts. It's like $555,000 for 3 years after his contract. They don't get a great deal of savings, real world savings. They would save like $1.5 million, $2 million for 3 years if they bought him out. But they would also save that by keeping him in the AHL. They would save the 1.15 or 1.25 next year. Where the Penguins would benefit is on the books, because you only have to pay him 2/3. So they would save about $5 million in accounting, actual cash. Not, wouldn't affect the salary cap, but actual cash, they'd save about, I think it was it was about $5 million. So yes, I do think Ryan Graves will indeed be bought out next summer. Like, you have to do it in June. Let's go to Pogan. Hear me out. When someone says hear me out, they got a doozy coming. What if they kept Kindle and wanted to fill that third slot on the line? Let's say Novak, Kindle, and McGroarty. Yeah, that's well within the realm of possibility. There are so many options to choose from, like Hollander, Koivunen, etc. Yeah, listen, I think Novak, Kindle, McGroarty is quite possible. I definitely think that Kindle is sticking around. To send him back, that just not happening. See some comments here. I see Tristan Brose coming up before McGroarty. No, Brose is a center. So until they have a need for a center, Tristan Brose isn't going to come up. Let's see here. From Gable Fisk, my guy in Vegas here. Are we concerned yet that McGroarty might be always hurt guy? Oh, I don't know. This is sort of new territory for him. I don't know what the injury is. He looks fine. He's walking around the place, workout gear. I don't know the injury, and the Penguins have been very very, very nebulous and vague. Well, it's an upper body. So somewhere between the belt and the top of the head, he suffered an injury over the summer, and they've been very precautious. I don't know. So if he gets hurt for a third time next year, then we start to wonder. But I tend to think that this is part of them helping Rutger McGroarty remake Rutger McGroarty. And Owen Pickering went through the same thing. Owen Pickering went through a couple of years of a lot of injuries because he was still growing and working out hard and trying to transition from the gangly kid in juniors to a mature professional player. So, no, not yet. Big Joe. Do you think the Pens will get bullied in games? I guess we will see Thursday. That's the Panthers. Other than the second line, we still look so small. We haven't had an overly physical game yet. I suppose there's some truth to that. LA is not a soft team. Look, LA is far from a soft team. And the Penguins, the Penguins got some help from LA's goaltender, but The Penguins weren't outmatched in that game. Yeah, it will be interesting. I don't think the Penguins' fourth line, despite their lack of height, lacks toughness. That's for sure. Dewar, Achari, and Lizotte. I mean, they're the Tasmanian devil. I mean, it's a tornado. And they're good on the wall against bigger players. They're hockey strong. I think that's the kind of game Thursday where Ben Kindle might struggle a little bit. Even though the Florida Panthers are so banged up. So very banged up. Let's go to, let's see here. I want to try to get some new folks in here. I know you guys are having a conversation. I can see Ozzy and Invicta and who else? And the Driz all kind of having their own good old time here on my chat board. So Kay Wright says, any news on McGroarty's return? Do you have honey mustard? Let's go to Hips Now 1105. By the way, those of you who are new, casual guys, checking in, do you have honey mustard means if I knew, I'd report it already. I'm not waiting for a question on Twitter or a live chat to break news. When I know, I'll report it. But the nice way of saying that is, do you have honey mustard? Okay. My voice is similar to the other D. Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, let's go to Brian. 20,000 or 20,015. Let's give the fourth line some credit. Been pretty good so far. It's been fantastic. Brandon Rickner, I haven't seen a lot of discourse around this, but what are your thoughts on Piananemi leaving for Europe? Seemed like a lock for the AHL roster, but was being relegated to the ECHL. Unfortunate. How many of you all were all jumping up ugly on me when I told you that Emil Piananemi wasn't ready for prime time? And I said I haven't seen much from him in the rookie camps, in training camps, in preseason games and scrimmages. I just had not seen much from him at all. The comparison I made, which really infuriated the Piananemi is great crowd, was to Isaac Beliveau, a guy who should have been in the AHL, but due to numbers and kind of the status of his career not being better than the guys in the AHL, was relegated to Wheeling himself. He was traded. I forget where he's at. Saw him at the Prospects Challenge. Is he Boston or Buffalo? Buffalo. Yeah, he's I think he's with Rochester this year. Or maybe he's in the ECHL. I didn't follow up to look. But my thoughts are the Penguins put him where he belonged. He didn't like it. He left. Okay. That's literally what my thoughts are on it. I'm not going to waste another minute on it. Pagan Lizotte is showing himself as a hard worker last few games. Any chance they rinse out that fourth line for a better value in terms of pick? Now, if you trade a guy like Blake Lizotte, even Noel Acciari, there was a time a handful of years ago that Acciari was a good, was worth a second round pick, even actually a late first round pick. Kyle Dubas with the Toronto Maple Leafs giving that up in a deal. Who was the defenseman that went? Colorado traded Acciari and which defenseman? Wasn't Bo Byram, was it? To Toronto for a first round pick? Was it Connor Timmins? Listen, I don't know what I did yesterday. You're asking me to remember 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, no, you're not. If you trade the fourth line guys, you're getting mid-round picks. Those guys have more value to the Penguins. I suppose if they're out of the playoff race, then you sort of clean sweep it. But that, you don't do that until the actual trade deadline day. Okay. Brett Favreify. Hockey pundits spend way too much time thinking about next year's team rather than staying in the moment. Is this Mike Sullivan's burner account? You, Mike Sullivan? Let's go to Locke. What will the Penguins do if they have an embarrassment of riches for prospects? We're excited for Kindle, but Bros, Zonin, Horkoff. What will they do? They'll play them happily. That's what they will do. Hockey guy, moving Kindle to the wing would be a mistake from the amateur scouts that I got keyed in on. Kindle mentioned he plays center like a midfielder, roaming for the puck, kind of like Gino. He thrives in space. There is very little comparison between Ben Kindle's game and Evgeny Malkin's game. No comparison whatsoever. Malkin is so instinctual and, it used to be aggressive, powerful, and just extremely talented. Now, I'm not saying Ben Kindle isn't talented, but I am saying he's not overly aggressive. He's not powerful. He doesn't quite have, listen, no one has Malkin's hands. Malkin in his prime could literally stick handle through 3 defensemen. It's not a shame to not be able to do that. It helps being 6'3" and having the reach to get around people. No, Kindle is not a roaming center. No. Ben Kindle is a step ahead of the play. Ben Kindle is the guy who goes to where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is. Ben Kindle is the guy who pulls up on the mid-wall, gets the puck in the high slot, at the point, even down low, and he knows how the play is going to unfold. And from there, he inserts himself to maximum advantage, whether it's dishing the puck, whether it's taking a shot, whether it's keeping it for a few extra moments to let the play unfold further to the open man. Kindle is a cerebral player. So to call him a sort of a roamer, no, that I would not go there. That's for sure. Let's go to more hockey cards, please. Well, I guess I already gave my thoughts on Piananemi. Joseph, with Dubas' latest update, McGroarty was him. When did Dubas update McGroarty? Did he do that stupid GM show and I'm doing this? Is that what's happening? I have to go write a news story quick? I hate when they do that. I don't know the show is coming. Okay, so I have to find that. Because I was preparing this show. Let's go to Josh Shaw. Do I think the Penguins make the playoffs? Or do I think if the Penguins make the playoffs, we could see Malkin back for one more year? We will know almost everything there is to know in February. Okay? They met before the season. They're going to keep the lines of communication open through the first half of the season. They're going to sit down during the Olympic break and have a real conversation. That's where it goes. Okay, so if Malkin is a point per game guy in February, then it's very possible. All right, I'm going to take. Let me go to the bottom here. Okay, the Driz is saying, yeah, on the X show. That's what Dubas said. Okay, so I will have to wrap up the chat and jump and do the Rutger McGroarty news. That was recorded like earlier today. They could give us a heads up. They could help me out a little bit. Let's see. No, I guess that's Honey Mustard Questions, a foundational piece of the PHN universe. And that is where we will end it, my friends. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. The more you do that, the more interaction YouTube sees, the more they feature us, the more I make. And I appreciate all of you so very much. I've got a 6 a.m. flight to Florida. I'm doing the very dangerous day of travel, and I'm flying a big yellow jet. In fact, I might be flying it. You know, with that airline, it's first come, first served. So wish me safe travels. I will be praying for my 24th row seat because all of the big comfy seats up front were bought and I could not get a comfortable seat. So I figured, what the heck, what's the difference between paying $50 to sit in the 12th row beside two goofballs who probably want to man spread and put their elbows out versus being in the 24th row and having the very same thing happen. So I will be in Florida to cover the game Thursday, flying back Friday afternoon, actually. And that is all she wrote for the Odyssey Podcast Network. Pittsburgh Hockey Now on the YouTube and everywhere else. Thanks. Have fun.